Hello guys, and welcome to part 3 of my little tutorial here. In the last part, what we did was we made a view holder, as we can see here, and we also made a model. So I'm actually going to change this to just restaurant. I know it's also misspelled, but that's fine. I'm just going to shift F6 this. I'm going to call it restaurants just so it's a little bit less confusing. Okay, so that's fine. Now I'm going to go ahead and get started. So let's come here into our main Java package, guys. We're just going to make a new adapter. So let's just call this one restaurant. I know it's misspelled, I'm sorry. And adapters, fine. So we're gonna get rid of this. This is going to extend our recycler view dot adapter, and we can choose to pass in a view holder or not. In this case, we are just making a simple adapter, so we are going to just pass in the view holder. So here we're just gonna pass in our restaurant view holder. Let's just type in view holder. Let's see if it doesn't. So let's try it again. So rest. There it is. And we're also going to implement onClick listener, just kind of thinking ahead here. So implements, and this is going to allow us to handle clicks when each one of the elements is clicked on. View.onClick. There we go. So let's actually all enter and implement all these methods here. Okay, so here we go. So we do need a few global variables. First of all, we need a activity or a context. Because if you guys remember back in our restaurant view holder, we have this populate method that we do need to kind of fill out later. So just keeping in mind, we do need this context here. And we also need a restaurant, but since we're in an adapter, we're actually going to use a list of restaurants. So here we're going to just say private app compact activity. This is going to be our context. We're also going to pass in a private array list of restaurants. We're just going to call this one restaurants. And this array list is how we're going to update the data inside the recycler, or inside the adapter, I should say. Okay, so now we're also going to need a layout inflator for later. So just type private layout inflator. Inflator's fine. And finally, we're going to make an interface. So for those of you who don't know what an interface is, it's pretty much just a class with a bunch of methods. So public interface on restaurant clicked. So this is our interface, and it's going to have one class called void, so it's not going to return anything on restaurant clicked. And here let's call this listener instead of just clicked. So listener and on restaurant clicked. So this method here is just going to need a restaurant. So restaurant. And let me not forget my semicolon, or else it will not work. Okay, so that's fine. We're going to use this interface in a bit. You guys will kind of see in a little while why it's there. But for now, let's actually just define it as a global variable. So private on restaurant click listener. Let's just call this one listener. Okay, looks good. So now we need to make a constructor. So alt insert constructor. Let's actually just grab in our activity as well as our listener. So now that we have access to the activity, we can actually fill out this layout inflator. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say inflator is going to be equal to activity.get layout inflator. And we also need to instantiate this array list. So restaurants is equal to a new array list. Okay. So now let's make a getter for that array list, guys. Now this getter is going to allow us to update the data inside this recycler view. So just leave that there for now. So now we need to go ahead and fill out these overrides to finish up our adapter. So on onCreate view holder here, if we can go back into our restaurant view holder, the constructor is expecting a view. So what we needed to do is we need to define the view, which is called our list of restaurants, or list restaurants. So we're gonna do that very simply. We're gonna come here into the restaurant adapter, and instead of returning null, we're going to say view going to be equal to inflator, which is defined on top. If you guys remember, we're going to dot inflate r dot layouts dot list restaurants, which is our view, and we're going to pass in a parent and then false. And this looks just like a fragment, guys, if you guys kind of just see that with the parent and the false. Okay, so now we're just going to set the onClick listener to handle every time we click on the restaurant. We do want something to happen. So for right now, just say onClick listener, and we're going to pass in this because it implements onClick listener, so we can do that. So now we're just going to return a new, and we're just going to call this one restaurant view holder. And inside here, like I said, we need to pass in a view, which we define there. So just type in view. Okay, so that takes care of this method. Now we need the onBind view holder. And what this is going to do, guys, is going to take every single one of the elements inside our array list and it's going to bind them to the view. And if we remember here, we do have this populate method, so we're going to call it by saying holder, which is a restaurant view holder, which you guys can see there. So holder.populate. And inside here, we're going to pass in our context, which is activity, then the restaurant. So we're just going to say restaurants.getPosition. So for each of the restaurants inside our array list, it's going to populate the view holder. Now the get item count is very simple. All it needs is the size of the array list or data. In this case, it's just going to be restaurants.size. And then finally on click. So here we're going to say if our view, or here, I'm going to change this v here to view because I think v just looks disgusting. View is much better. So if view.getTag is in the instance of our restaurant, then what we're going to do is we're just going to say restaurant is going to be equal to restaurant, and I will explain this in 1 second. View.getTag, and then finally all we need to do here is just say restaurant, or we just need to do listener dot on restaurant clicked, and we're going to pass in our restaurant. And that's pretty much it. But just to explain this view.getTag, if you guys remember back in our restaurant view holder, we did set the item view as a restaurant. So we set this tag here as a restaurant. So all we're doing here inside our on click is we're just going to grab that tag to make sure it is an instance of restaurant, which it always will be, but it doesn't hurt to check. Then after that, we're going to grab the restaurant from the tag. You guys can see here from this casting. Then we're going to pass this into the side the listener here, and which of course is just this interface. And then we're going to set this restaurant inside the method, which is onClicked. And this is going to allow us to handle the click listener inside our main activity. Alright guys, that's pretty much it for this video. We just made the adapter here. If anything seems fuzzy or you're not really understanding anything, go ahead and just give me an email or something and I will be very happy to respond. A Facebook message is probably preferred because I can probably help you guys a lot quicker there. And it's a lot easier to communicate. So yeah, just Facebook me. I will have my Facebook in the description. Okay, so everything looks good here and this is done. So close, and that kind of ends the video. So we just have one more step to do, which is going to be just hooking everything up to our UI. Alright you guys, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you guys are learning and I will see you guys next time.